Good morning, Kitchissippi. It is Sunday, May the 19th. This is a video version of the Kitchissippi Ward newsletter, number 391. You can sign up for the weekly Ward newsletter at kitchissippiward.ca to receive it in your inbox, usually most weekends. Lots of information in there about what's going on in the community and at City Hall. Speaking of kitchissippiward.ca, I have now completed the process of migrating the website to a new host. kitchissippiward.ca is back up and live again. It is a significantly stripped down site. It has just the basics on how to contact me. Most of the content that was on the website is now gone, and we'll just start building that back up again with posts as I need to disseminate information to the community. As a consequence of changing hosts, any of my kitchissippiward.ca email addresses are no longer working. I think some of you are used to emailing me at my ottawa.ca and kitchissippiward.ca email accounts. Those kitchissippiward.ca accounts were always just forwarded to my ottawa.ca accounts, and we only ever received one copy of those. But moving forward, write to me by email at jeff.leeper@ottawa.ca. It's the only email address that will reach me. I am standing here for today's newsletter on the closed eastbound on-ramp at Parkdale. I've written a few thoughts about that in the newsletter this week. I'm noticing that for those of us who live in very close proximity to the ramps, close proximity to Parkdale, things are significantly quieter than they were. There isn't a huge amount of congestion on Parkdale. In fact, quite the opposite. It is calmer, it is quieter. I've noticed that the buses are getting from Tunney's Pasture to places further south significantly more quickly. I've asked OC Transport to provide me some comparison data, and it's really interesting here at Parkdale and the Queensway on-ramp to see the pedestrian crossings that are happening without the pressure of those perennially aggressive drivers who are rushing pedestrians as they try to cross north-south here. I posed a very rhetorical question in the newsletter. What if the MTO simply let it stay closed? Anyways, a conversation starter. There probably is no real path to achieving that, certainly on my end, but it has been a very interesting experiment in traffic evaporation as a result of closing the on-ramp. I know that is having effects on people, though. Some of you, I'm sure, are going to the East End on a near daily basis. This is a significantly longer drive for you, and I'm sure it's affecting the ability for OC Transport to get those deadheads to the yards again. But it has been very interesting to watch. The off-ramp is going to open back up on May the 28th. This on-ramp will stay closed until August the 25th when it reopens. I'm hosting pop-up office hours this week. That'll be on Thursday, May 23rd from 1 until 4 p.m. outside at Parkdale Park. Come on by and see me in the park anytime during those hours without appointment to chat with me one-on-one about whatever's on your mind. If it is raining, look for me in the Morning Owl across the street on Armstrong next to the Carlton Tavern. The Committee of Adjustment is going to meet on June 5th. There are two items on its agenda relating to Kitchissippi Ward. Both of them are CCOC developments, proposed developments for low-rise apartment buildings one is at 212 Carruthers. The other one is at 171 Armstrong. The variances that they're seeking are kind of the same for both of those, around some things like bike parking width, walkway width, and also the requirement to have reticulation from the front property line for those properties as they seek to build new low-rise apartment buildings. Those were adjourned, I believe. This is a resumption of that hearing. You can find all of the details in the newsletter with links to all of the documents. Really interesting, the city is appealing the Committee of Adjustment's decision at 398, 402, and 406 Roosevelt. That is the proposed mid-rise that is in behind the Starbucks parking lot on Roosevelt and Richmond. Folks will know the history of that building. It's been through a lot of process. After Domicile sold it to MLDev, MLDev proposed turning it into an entirely residential building, removing the surface parking from the rear yard to the benefit benefit really of the neighbors, and moving ahead with that as a higher end residential development. I assume in the face of current market conditions, they've pivoted. They're now proposing to build that as a 61 unit apartment building. They were in front of the Committee of Adjustment a couple of weeks ago to seek a single variance to be allowed to provide only 15 parking spots instead of 25. The Committee of Adjustment refused that request for variances. That would mean MLDev has got a couple of options to provide the necessary parking. They can either go down another level, which is going to make the housing more expensive and obviously create much more disruption for neighbors, or they can put in the surface parking to which they're entitled in the rear yard. Again, I don't think that's to the benefit of neighbors, and it reduces the amount of green space here in the ward. So the city has taken the rare step of appealing the Committee of Adjustment's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. I expect, or I'm told to expect, that the hearing will be scheduled within fairly short order, and staff are confident of winning that appeal. The developer has also appealed. I have significantly more information about it on the kitchissippiward.ca website, as well as in the newsletter. I should note that the Westboro Community Association came out in favor of the variances that were being sought, and the city had expressed no concern. Another quick note, Sunday, May 26th, check the newsletter for the link to the Ottawa Race Weekend website. Multiple road closures throughout the east end, particularly of our ward, as the marathon and half marathon come running through that morning. I'm sure I'll see a lot of you out at the various different cheering stations and along the route on the morning of Sunday, May 26th. A couple of community announcements. The Wellington Village Community Association is hosting its annual general meeting Tuesday, May 28th. That'll be held at 7:30 at Fisher Park School. I'll be offered the chance to say a few words, answer some questions. President Dave Alston is going to talk a little bit about some local history issues. That's always fascinating stuff. Interested residents will be invited to step up and join the board, which is really important service in your community, and also an opportunity, of course, to join the Wellington Village Community Association. There is a citywide, actually nationwide effort to count the number of cyclists on our roads called the Pedal Poll. That'll be held for, it'll be either the 4th or the 5th year in a row here in Ottawa, June 4th until 9th. They're seeking volunteers who can go out and do a shift to count the number of cyclists. I signed up for the same spot I always do on the Rideau River Path, just on the other side of the Odawa Bridge. There are spots right across the city where they want to count the number of cyclists, and they're developing a really good year-over-year comparison database now so that we can take a look at some of the trends that are happening with respect to cycling. The Hintonburg 5K, the Community Association has announced, is going to be on July 14th. So that'll be Sunday, July 14th for the Hintonburg 5K and Kids 1K. That is always a wildly popular event in the ward. Registration is open. The full information is on the hintonburg.com website. I've got a link to all that in the newsletter. At City Hall, the Planning and Housing Committee is going to meet on May the 22nd. We have a relatively brief agenda. At 224 Preston, the owner is going to be seeking a rezoning in order to construct a 6-story mixed-use building. At 1927 Maple Grove, the owner is seeking a rezoning to allow townhomes in that development. At 451 Smythe, there's an application that is going to allow for the Advanced Medical Research Facility that is being constructed by the University of Ottawa to proceed on that campus. There will also be an update proposed to the, the O-Train Proximity Study Guidelines. Those are the rules that people need to follow when they're building close to the tracks. Because of the expansion of the system, those are going to be updated to reflect a broader geography. The Transportation Committee is going to meet on May the 23rd. I think it has an interesting agenda for our ward. I'm bringing a motion that would allow the encroachment fees that would normally go into general coffers associated with the construction at 979 Wellington to be put into a special fund for a revamp of Somerset Square Park. We're getting some significant new public realm as a result of that development as they close that stub of Wellington that no longer goes anywhere. Square. The Community Association, as part of its settlement and its appeal, achieved some additional dollars. I know that I will be looking to put some cash and lieu dollars in, and then the encroachment fees that are associated with the construction stage and equipment, I'm hoping council will allow us to put those into a Somerset Square refresh fund. So I expect my colleagues will support it, staff support it, but I'll keep an eye on that one. And of course, there's been some media around the proposal to spend, I think it's like $5.5 million from city funds to ensure that there is cycling infrastructure on the Maitland overpass. The Maitland 417 overpass will be rebuilt. MTO doesn't put cycling infrastructure in there. It is a wildly popular route for cyclists as they get from the west end of Ottawa to downtown. It needs cycling infrastructure. The city is proposing to top up the budget with its own funds to ensure that happens when the MTO rebuilds that bridge. And then there are also a number of modifications to a couple of our sort of rise and grind bylaws. There's the road activity bylaw, the private approach bylaw, the use of care and roads bylaws. Updates to those, I've scanned them. Most of them are administrative in nature. The most the one that will have the most effect on city councillors is the proposal in the private approach bylaw to allow staff to approve the reinstatement of private approaches, those are driveways, to the way they were if they were constructed before 2007 when we're rebuilding roads. There is a very routine motion that I and other councillors bring when we're rebuilding our roads to allow for the reinstatement of driveways that would otherwise be illegal under the current rules if they were built before 2007. Those motions always pass. It is a relatively routine thing to do, but this will take away the need to have those motions. Staff will have the delegated authority to allow those private driveways. In addition to those meetings, the Accessibility Advisory Committee is going to meet on May the 21st, and the Ottawa Police Services Board will meet on May the 27th. Kitchissippi, it is an absolutely glorious weekend. I hope you're enjoying a long weekend with family and friends, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks for watching.